Good morning, Boker Tov. This is so fun. Good morning, everyone. So glad that we are together here in our sanctuary and here today for our annual event. Somehow it feels, maybe every year, every annual event feels different one from the other, but this one, maybe because we are celebrating a lot of different things, it just feels kind of different from previous years. We are here to celebrate our outgoing president, Dennis Blender, after 2 years of service, and we'll be doing that. Nice. Of course, we're here also to dedicate our new Bimah, and we'll be talking about that in just a moment. I don't think that Bimah needs you to clap for it, but that's good, okay? That's also good. And all of our annual events also serve as a way of celebrating our congregation as a whole. And it's not something that ends up on the invitation or on the email that says we're celebrating our congregation, but maybe all annual events in some ways, that is really essentially what we're doing. And I'm always glad to think about doing things like that to celebrate our congregation, this institution, and also, of course, to the people who make up this institution. This room is special to me. I've spent a lot of time in this room, as of course have so many of you. When I first came to visit Beth Ahm, I think in that moment it was actually the officers themselves who walked me straight through the main doors, even though it was a weekday, and walked me straight into this room. And I've always loved our sanctuary. And really just gives me a lot of joy to be able to be together with you to rededicate this Bimah as part of this room. I'm going to start, though, with the thank yous for this project. I want to thank, and maybe we as a congregation are all really thanking Dennis Blender. Todd Stern in a moment as our first vice president is going to come up and really honor Dennis. But Dennis is the one who really brought this project to the rest of the leadership and has seen it through with the help, of course, of the officers and our board of directors. And from a very early point in the consideration of this project, really, the congregation as a whole has been very supportive of what we've been doing, and it's made a huge difference because change can be hard. Some people may be here thinking change is hard. It looks different in here. But most people over the last few months, since we actually have been able to be back in this room, have been so supportive and so positive and so glad for this change and what it represents for us. We want to thank the parts of the team that planned this, Newman Smith and J.B. Donaldson, architects and builders who, some of whom are here. Maybe we could ask them to stand, those who have been working on the project. Thank you. I only know this, I guess I've been sort of on the inside, but not really on the inside. That's for other people. I just get to say thank you at the end. But it's really, of course, these details are so important, and they change over the course of a project, and decisions have to be made, and with the support of professionals like these, it's really been great to arrive now at this point. We really owe, even though he would have told me not to put it in, we really owe a debt of gratitude. He's our project manager for everything, but really for this project in particular, we really owe a debt of gratitude to Dave Goodman for all of the work. And I also want to thank all of the people who donated to make this possible. Some of the donations were made a year ago when I was celebrating my 20th year here with the congregation, and some of those funds have gone to create this. Others made donations directly to this project when it became available for them to do so. We are so grateful In some ways, when you are first starting a project, many people have been part of a variety of fundraising projects. When you're really ready to start, there's sometimes really, are we going to do this? It's kind of it's a sacrifice. It's a real dedication to do this. Or people have many priorities. Are people going to respond to this project? And you did, and we did. And it's a testament, I think, to our congregation and to the people who donated to make this happen and have been supporting it all along. So I'd like to just give one more round of applause for that. As you see, one of the additions to our sanctuary now are these plaques which recognize the donors who have been a part of this project. You can take a look at that later on. So, when the children of Israel completed the building of the tabernacle, which is told about in the book of Exodus, it was a big celebration. The tabernacle was put together, all the different parts. Moses oversaw it and put it all together, and when it was all put together, the tabernacle was filled with the presence of God in a way that was visible to all of the Jewish people. They knew they had finished the project and finished it successfully because God's presence was tangibly, almost, you could say, with them. The synagogue, of course, is an inheritor of the traditions of the tabernacle and then later the temple. Every synagogue is connected in that line going back to the temple and then to the tabernacle. Our ark, just like there was an ark in the tabernacle. In the tabernacle, we had the tablets of the law. We have Sifrei Torah, Torah scrolls. The Ner Tamid, which sits above the ark, which is a reminder of the menorah. We also have menorot, one on either side. This table is not an altar, but a little bit reminiscent of an altar. All of these things which tie us back to that original celebration. And just before Moshe put the tabernacle together, put all the pieces together, he turned to the Jewish people and he blessed them. And the book of Exodus doesn't say what the content of Moshe's bracha was, but Rashi tells us that here's what Moshe said. May the divine presence rest upon the work of your hands. May the pleasantness of my Lord our God be upon us and upon the work of our hands, and may he establish our handiwork for us. It's actually words from the Psalms. And it's in the Siddur in a couple of different places, including every Saturday night, as we transition from a time of rest to a time of productivity and work, creating things in the world. Sometimes we call those mundane things, but this project, which is very much about work, was not mundane. This Bimah is within the context of our sanctuary, and so is a holy place, a place for holiness. This new Bimah is a result of a lot of thought and consideration. It was an opportunity taken rather than delayed. It represents a choice to invest time and money in pursuit of values, a series of values. Primarily, as you know, it's the pursuit of inclusion. It's not something which is talked about in the Torah in a direct way, sort of a contemporary way of using language, but as you know and you heard as we started to plan, and as you can see, now this is a place where anyone who would like can come and have an aliyah, can come and open the ark, could come if there was a wedding here, and could come up and be whether a bride or a groom without climbing the stairs, or part of a bridal party, or parent of a bride or a groom, whatever it is. The opportunity is there, and not surprisingly, at the outset of this process, some people asked, how many people actually are going to use this ramp? And I think the answer is every single person that needs to. That instead of counting the number of people, what we have now created is a condition where we don't need to count how many people, because every person is going to have the opportunity to come. Each person who would like to be a part of this. And In doing so, we fulfill what is called by Rabbi Akiva the core idea, really, of Torah, which is you should love your neighbor as yourself. And as Hillel put it in the negative, don't do anything to someone that you wouldn't want done to yourself. Now, there was a reason why we had this elevated center bimah, and even though people say it's Sephardi style, the truth is that for most of us who are here, who are Ashkenazim, actually, that's the shuls that our ancestors had as well. A bimah in the middle, elevated. I don't know why they didn't think that they needed a ramp. It wasn't part of society then. It wasn't quite the same. But what we've tried to do is keep this table right where it is, right where it was, almost, so that we continue to maintain this sense of us being focused here on the Torah, on our davening, on each other. You can see a cross in a way that maybe you couldn't before. We'll see over time how people adjust to this and how people feel about the change. But the initial response has been so positive. This room is the focal point, really, of the congregation overall, in spite of all the other great things we do, whether it's in Nussbaum Hall or Mainster Hall or on the other side of the building. This room has a focus, two areas of focus. God, our relationship with God, just as the tabernacle served that way as well, and the congregation itself. We are a community. Every shul is menshi. That's what they say. It's really very Hamish. It's never something you're supposed to say as a, I don't know. You've never reached there. You're always aiming for that. I have always felt, since I came to Beth Ahm, that is the kind of synagogue that we are. I think that this change only elevates us in that way. Makes us a place which is even more so for everyone, even more than it has been. Gives us that opportunity. And what I hope is that even though we've now completed this project, and I'm not expecting a cloud of glory to fill our space right now, that would have really been something. I hope that all of our time spent in this room will give us the opportunity to bring God's presence down into the space so that God and we will fill that space. And so as we dedicate this, I'm going to ask people to stand. And we're just going to share this one bracha of Shehachianu together. Shehachianu, which allows us to thank God for allowing us, as a community in this case, to reach this moment. We'll say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehachianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Thank you very much. Please be seated. It's my pleasure to call on Todd Stern to share some words with us about Dennis Blender.
Thank you, Rabbi. A synagogue president is walking along the beach when he finds a magic lamp. He rubs it, and a genie pops out. The president I will grant you one wish, the genie says. The president pulls out a map of the Middle East, and he says, there's been a conflict here for 1,000 years. Can you do something about it for us, please? The genie looks at the map and shakes his head, and he says, I'm a powerful genie, but that is impossible. The history's too deep, the grudge is too old, you have to pick something else. So the president sighs and says, okay, my synagogue has 3 different committees that have been arguing for 10 years about the color of the new sanctuary carpet. Can you make them finally agree on one color of beige? And the genie says, can I see that map again? Which just goes to demonstrate the difficulties of being a shul president. Dennis, on behalf of Congregation Beth Ahm and this entire community, I want to say how grateful we are for your years of devoted service as our president. You've led not from a distance, but from the heart, and we can feel that in the room today. When Dennis started, I vividly remember him starting with his first goal, which was not to screw up. Not only did he not screw things up, but he's made this a stronger, richer, more financially sound synagogue. Leadership in a synagogue is not a title, it's a responsibility, a burden at times, and at its best, a sacred trust. And you accepted this trust with humility, with patience, and with a steady hand. You've shown us that a leader is not the loudest voice in the room, but one who listens carefully, weighs different views, and keeps the community's best interest at heart. Over these past years, your leadership has really shaped the very culture of our community. You've been calm when things felt uncertain, optimistic when challenges piled up, and practical when we needed to get things done. People knew that when Dennis was in the room, the conversation would be organized, respectful, and focused on solutions, not on problems. One of the most visible signs of your leadership, I'm standing on it right now, this new Bimah, which really was your vision, and what this synagogue could become for generations to come. And despite the challenges, and there were a lot, we really had angst over almost every decision. You pulled it together, you worked with the board, the staff, the professionals, and you put together a Bimah that balances tradition and modern needs, aesthetics and accessibility, mutual warmth and architectural clarity, and guided us to this end result. And that result is a Bimah that feels both familiar and new, a place where we can pray, celebrate, and remember in a way that truly reflects who we are as a community, inclusive. I know you'll also be remembered for your high holiday messages. On the days when our sanctuary is fullest and our hearts are most open, you spoke to us with warmth, clarity, and hope. You didn't just give us president's reports, you actually had a dream, and offered us a way to think about the year that had passed and the year ahead. You acknowledged our worries about the world, about the community, about our families, yet always pointed us towards resilience, responsibility, and faith. Leadership is sometimes measured in the quieter moments that most people never see. The leadership in meetings, listening to all points of view, but keeping our agendas moving forward. You did all that and more, often without recognition, because you genuinely care about the congregation and the people who call it home. So Dennis, as your term concludes, we know that your love for Beth Ahm does not end. It simply takes a new form. You strengthen the board, deepen the partnership with the rabbi and our executive director, David, and modeled what lay leadership can look like at its best. You leave us not only with a renovated Bimah and a stronger organization, but a powerful example of integrity, kindness, and dedication. To sum up, when I asked the rabbi if he had a few things he wanted me to include in the speech, he just simply said, Dennis was a great president. So, on behalf of Congregation Beth Ahm, thank you for your vision, your time, your patience, and your unwavering commitment to the community. May the blessings you've given this congregation be returned to you and your family many times over. Yasher Koach.
Wow. Just want to say thank you and let's eat. But I'm not going to do that. Got a few comments relative to the Bimah renovation, if you don't mind, and then a few comments about the presidency. And I normally don't correct the rabbi, but I'm going to. This took a community to do. So relative to this renovation, ideas are cheap and easy. You know, everybody has them. But it really took a village of people to make this happen. And starting with the rabbi, to thank Rabbi Rubenstein, he was such an unwavering support from the very beginning. And obviously, if the rabbi didn't want to do it, it was going to be a tough sell to the rest of the members. And he led the communications to everyone out in the community and everyone in our congregation. So, Rabbi, thank you. He mentioned David. David was so instrumental in every aspect of this project. Can't tell you how many hours we spent together trying to figure this out and work on it. The budget, the logistics, coordinating with the community, working with Newman Smith and Donaldson. They were just and raising money at the same time. And I know it was frustrating for David. And so, David, out of the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful you never punched the president in the nose. Because I know he wanted to every once in a while. It was Rabbi Sachs who said, "We are as great as the challenges we have the courage to undertake." So thanks to the officers who demonstrated their courage and conviction, and to the rest of the trustees, there were a lot of conversations we had about whether we should do this or not, but they ended quickly because the decision was, yes, we should do this. So the question went from should we to how should we? And there were a lot of aspects to that. And Rabbi mentioned a few of those. Todd mentioned a few of those. There were some really significant discrepancies in how we were going to do this and make this happen. But at the end of the day, when it came time to vote, and we had several votes along the way, every vote was by 100% consensus. And so it's a testament to the officers and the board for doing that. We held congregational meeting. We got congregants involved and getting their input. And there's just one congregant I need to call out. And he's here somewhere, Ron Jedwab. Ron is here somewhere. Yeah, there he is. So we were holding a congregational meeting, and Kayla was here from Newman Smith, and Rabbi was talking about what we were planning to do. And at the time, we were planning on making the center Bimah accessible, and we were going to run the platform up to the 3 steps, but there were 4 steps leading up to the Torahs, and we weren't going to do anything about that because we just couldn't figure out how to do it. And Rod Genwab raised his hand, and he said, "You know, if you take down those 4 steps, you'll have a straight shot to the wall." And I remember looking at Rabbi and him looking at me going, what the hell's he talking about? But he saw it, and as a result, with Kayla and with Donaldson, they figured out how to do it. Now, when you look there, you can't figure out where the hell the 4 steps were. So Ron, thank you for making the entire thing accessible. That was Ron. Rabbi mentioned we have generous donors, and fortunately we were able to get that plaque up. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's just magnificent, and all the donors. There's a couple fundraisers in the room, and they will tell you that we did something that's virtually impossible. It's not done. We paid for this before a contractor came into the room. Before a dumpster was delivered, we had this whole concept paid for. We just didn't tell anyone for obvious reasons, but thank you to all of those donors, and again, tribute for them on the wall. And I already mentioned, or Rabbi mentioned, Newman Smith, Bill, and Brendan are over here, and Kayla's over there. Thanks for your professionalism, your expertise. Thanks for your flexibility and patience. No one in this room would want to have a synagogue as a client. But they did, and they were terrific in working with us. Now I'm going to shift. May 21st, 2024, I officially became president of Beth Ahm. It has been one of the great honors of my life. Truth be told, I haven't had a lot of honors. But if I did, this would be way up on the list. And I say that very sincerely. A number of thank yous, already mentioned above. The Rabbi and David were terrific to work with. Allison, the rest of the staff were amazing. They just made everything run here so beautifully and so wonderfully. And to the board, I want to thank Anita, my wife. I mentioned this 2 years ago, and I'll use the same words. She's been my sounding board, my consigliere, and at times I know it was frustrating for her, so I'm thankful that she never punched me in the nose. Because I know she wanted to every once in a while. Todd already said that when I took on this role 2 years ago, I said I was going to have one goal, but I was also going to have a governing philosophy. I wanted to have a governing philosophy. And I think Al is in the room somewhere, or he was. But the governing philosophy was no drama. And I think we accomplished that. And the goal was not to screw anything up. I worked really hard and hopefully didn't screw anything up. What I didn't share publicly was I had a second goal. Didn't achieve it, got pretty close. The second goal was during the term of my presidency, every vote at the board would be by 100% consensus. Every vote. Now, some of those votes are perfunctory. Start the meeting, end the meeting, approve the minutes. I mean, those are easy. But in addition to the work on the Bimah, we had a lot of issues that were contentious, to say the least. And we listened to different points of view. People checked their egos at the door. We made through the conversation. And at the end of the day, every vote, but one, was by consensus. And in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have brought that one up for a vote. But we got really, really close. And so that's okay, too. A word about our incoming president, Todd Stern. We would be having one of those contentious conversations, and we would be getting close to consensus. And right near the end, right when I thought, all right, let's call for the vote, let's call for the vote, Todd would raise his hand, and he'd say something like this: I know you all think we ought to do this, but I have a different opinion. Now, when he did that, there were some eye rolls. Like, oh, here he goes again. But in actuality, it was terrific, because what Todd caused us to do was to make certain that we considered all the various possibilities on those issues. You want to make a really good decision? Don't succumb to groupthink. Get all the various views out there on the table ahead of time, and then make the vote. And then everybody understands that we've covered everything. And there were times, and I'll tell you, Todd, there were times that before an officers meeting or before a board meeting, I would say to myself with an issue, I think I know how everybody's going to go. And I think we're going to be really close to unanimity. I wonder what Todd will say. And as a result, it caused me to prepare for that alternative perspective. And it's very valued. And Todd and Terry are great supporters of the synagogue. They do so much for us. So we are in really good hands over the next 2 years. One last thing. There are a number of people who've taken pleasure, and I understand it, that when they see me, they go, oh, Mr. President. Well, you can't do that anymore. So I've got a new title for you. And if you want to use this one, that's okay. You can now refer to me as a POM. A POM, and that stands for plain old member. And I'm going to work really hard not to screw that one up either. Thank you.
You can have a seat again. We just want to offer this gift to Dennis on completing, in just a short, another few weeks anyway, completing his term. It's so it's not a surprise. It's a menorah, and we want you to use it in good health for many years. Here you go. Thank you. Just a few more things are between you and your brunch. First, I'd like, since we're together as a congregation and we have our staff here, I'd like to invite the staff from Beth Ahm to please stand. We have Allison Blau and Linda Wright and Murphy Ely and Toby Schlussel, who's in our religious school as well, so thank you. Oh, and Rachel, who's not in the room, excuse me, Rachel's in with the kids because that's one of the things she does around here. So great, Rachel Rosenthal. Thank you very much. I'd also, since we are again together for an annual meeting, I'd like to invite our past presidents who are with us today to please stand just to be recognized. Now. We thank you for your service, of course, and it just seems like an appropriate moment for us to highlight your work and recognize you. And as we're doing that, I just want to wish happy birthday to Marilyn Rice, one of our past presidents. Happy birthday, Marilyn. And now we're going to invite Abby Blender to please come to the Bimah. She is going to say Motzi for us as we conclude and move into Nussbaum Hall. Actually said Abby Blender, daughter of Dennis and Anita Blender. That's why she's here to be with us. Thank you.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We hope it's a good rest of the day.